Welcome to Hidden in History.
Place where the past whispers its secrets. Today we're sailing into the stormy world of pirates. Not the Hollywood kind with parrots and buried treasure, but the real-life swashbucklers who ruled the seas. Here are 10 surprising, gritty, and fascinating facts about real pirates that you probably didn't learn in school. Some may shock you, others might just change how you see history's most feared sea bandits. Fact 1. Pirates had their own code of conduct. Contrary to the myth of total chaos, most pirate crews followed a strict code, rules agreed upon by vote before setting sail. This pirate code covered everything from how loot was divided to punishments for theft or desertion. Some codes even offered injury compensation. For example, losing a leg might earn you extra gold. In many ways, it was more democratic than the navies they fled from. Captains were elected, and decisions were often made by majority rule. On a pirate ship, every man had a voice. At least, until the cannonballs started flying. Fact 2. The golden age of piracy was surprisingly short. When we think of pirates, we picture centuries of adventure. But the so-called Golden Age of piracy only lasted from the late 1600s to the early 1700s. It was about 30 years of peak piracy, concentrated in the Caribbean, along the American coastline, and around the West African slave routes. During this time, pirates like Blackbeard, Calico Jack, and Anne Bonny made their mark. Their rise was fueled by war, weak colonial governments, and booming transatlantic trade. But as empires grew stronger, piracy became harder, and by the 1730s, most of the famous pirates had been captured or killed. Fact 3. Not all pirates were men, and some were fearless. Piracy wasn't just a man's world. Women like Anne Bonny and Mary Read disguised themselves as men and fought just as fiercely. They sailed with Calico Jack Rackham and were said to be more aggressive in battle than many of their male counterparts. Mary was even arrested while pregnant, though she died in prison before facing execution. Most navies banned women on board ships, believing they brought bad luck. But pirates, ever the rebels, often cared more about skill and loyalty than tradition. Fact 4. Pirates didn't actually bury treasure. Sorry to ruin the fantasy, but the idea of pirates burying treasure is almost entirely fiction. Real pirates spent their loot quickly. Gold and jewels were rare. Most of their plunder came in the form of cargo, food, cloth, tools, spices, rum, or slaves. These were traded or sold as fast as possible, often in pirate-friendly ports like Nassau in the Bahamas or Tortuga off Hispaniola. The myth of buried treasure likely comes from Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Great story, but not historical. Fact 5. Blackbeard was more showman than killer. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard, was one of the most feared pirates of his time, but not necessarily the bloodiest. He cultivated a terrifying image, fuses in his beard to create clouds of smoke around his face, a dozen pistols strapped across his chest, and a towering presence. But records suggest he rarely killed. Intimidation was his real weapon. His ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, once blockaded the port of Charleston. He got what he wanted without firing a shot. Fact 6. Pirate ships were multicultural and surprisingly equal. But while European empires practiced slavery and racial hierarchy, pirate ships were far more inclusive, out of necessity and shared hardship. Former slaves, escaped sailors, indigenous peoples, and men from all over the world sailed side by side. On some ships, up to 30% of the crew were black or mixed race. Once aboard, many were treated as equals and shared in the loot. A pirate ship was one of the few places in the 18th century where race and background didn't automatically define your status. Fact 7. Pirates didn't just attack ships, they took over towns. Some pirate crews became so powerful, they didn't just plunder ships, they captured entire towns. The pirate Henry Morgan famously sacked Panama City with a fleet of privateers, capturing immense wealth and terrifying Spanish authorities. Others raided coastal towns across the Caribbean and North America, holding citizens hostage and demanding ransoms. These weren't random attacks. They were organized, tactical, and often more effective than the navies trying to stop them. Fact 8. Many pirates were former sailors turned rogue. Life aboard merchant and navy ships was brutal. Low pay, cramped quarters, harsh discipline, and little reward. Piracy, by contrast, offered a kind of freedom. Fair shares of loot, a vote on major decisions, and sometimes even medical care. It's no wonder that many sailors jumped ship and turned pirate when given the chance. In a way, piracy was rebellion. Not just against governments, but against a system that treated sailors as expendable. Fact 9. Pirate havens were like floating cities of crime. Pirates needed safe harbors, places where they could rest, repair ships, spend their gold, and avoid capture. Nassau in the Bahamas became a legendary pirate stronghold. For a time it was known as the Republic of Pirates, lawless, wild, and teeming with smugglers, taverns, and rogue captains. Other pirate havens included Madagascar, Port Royal in Jamaica, and hidden coves throughout the Caribbean. These places offered refuge, but also had their own rough rules and dangerous politics. Fact 10. Pirates left behind a legacy that still shapes us today. The pirate flag, the Jolly Roger, has become a universal symbol of rebellion. Pirate terms like Ahoy, matey, and booty are still part of pop culture. But beyond the cliches, real pirates challenged authority, experimented with democratic rule, and created strange floating societies on the fringes of empire. Their impact lingers, not just in books and movies, but in how we think about freedom, lawlessness, and the allure of life outside the system. Pirates weren't just villains or heroes. They were survivors, opportunists, rebels, and outlaws. Their world was violent, chaotic, and full of danger, but also rich with stories of daring, defiance, and unexpected humanity. So, next time you think of a pirate, look beyond the eye patch. The real history is wilder than fiction, and far more interesting.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of the next Hidden in History video.